There is much that I can say about our darshan for this morning. I could focus on the fact that he has been an integral part of this synagogue for many years, holding a variety of different positions, probably far more than I'm even aware of. I could focus on the fact that our darshan is currently on our executive committee, I think for round 2 or 3 at this point in time. I could focus on the fact that he is a sensitive, kind, intelligent, and insightful and thoughtful person. But I think for now, at least, I would just like to mention and share something really quite unique about our darshan, and that as he comes up to speak, there is not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 generations of the family here present to hear his words. It is a pleasure to be able to share the bima with Bob Oberstein this morning. There's Bob.
The length of this service, we probably had another generation pop up. But Franny did a great job. I was very impressed.
Brilliant.
So, happy Hanukkah, good Shabbos, and we shall begin. This particular Torah portion I'm really thrilled to do. It is as you'll see later, it's the story of conflict, sibling jealousy, and redemption. But where does it all begin? In the book, Siblings Without Rival, experts seem to agree that the root of sibling jealousy is each child's deep desire for the exclusive love of his parents. Joseph, in his dreams, relates to his brothers his grandiose plans and dreams of greatness, and that one day he will rule over the family. This stimulates a heightened level of jealousy within the family. As a result, Joseph is cruelly sold into slavery by his brothers to an Egyptian master for a mere 20 pieces of silver. That jealousy, often inspired by Jacob by showing such obvious and destructive favoritism between their children, making Joseph his favorite. Jacob warned Joseph against telling such dreams to his brothers and pleaded with his other sons to disregard those dreams, as he didn't wish strife within the family. But in his heart, Jacob knew that there was truth in Joseph's dreams. The Parsha this week tells how Joseph, while in prison, having interpreted the dreams of the Pharaoh's wine steward, remembered Joseph's gifts for interpreting dreams. Pharaoh summoned Joseph, exclaiming that he had a dream and there was no one to interpret it. Joseph, the 12th of Jacob's 13 children and firstborn to Rachel, came to Egypt as a powerless slave and eventually ascends to freedom and power, having favorably interpreted Pharaoh's dreams. Joseph suggests a plan for Pharaoh of how to manage the nation during the impending 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. Inspired by Joseph's gifts, Pharaoh rewards Joseph and appoints him the viceroy of Egypt, in charge of administering the entire nation and storing food for the coming years of trouble. The famine that Joseph predicted eventually brings the sons of Jacob to Egypt. With no other options and hearing of excess grain in the neighboring country, Joseph's sons make a series of trips to Egypt. During one of those trips, Joseph recognized his brothers, even though it had been 20 years since his brothers had sold him into slavery. Joseph conceals his identity and accuses his brothers of being spies. Joseph then locks up his brother Simon, holding him hostage, ordering the rest of the brothers to leave and to return with Benjamin, the youngest of Rachel's children. What fascinated me about this parsha was the interrelationship of Jacob and Joseph, Joseph and his brothers, as well as Joseph's remarkable rise from shepherd to viceroy of Egypt. So, why was Joseph their father's favorite son? As a teenager, Joseph does little to ingratiate himself to his brothers. As one of the youngest children, Joseph, while tending the flocks, will report back to his father unkindly activities about his older brothers. And I bet you can imagine there's not much sibling rivalry in their family. So, in an effort of full disclosure, as the father of first, middle, and last-born children, I'm only to say that what I'm about to say only relates to this story. If it were anything else, I'd be dead meat and never hear of it again, right? Typically, you ready for this? Typically, last-born are on a seesaw of emotions and experiences that they find hard to explain. Last-borns are often written off as the littlest and youngest. Some last-borns claim, they wouldn't let me play. They chose me last. They didn't take me seriously. Or, I'll show them. Because last-borns want to show the world we can do it, one of their major traits is persistence. Here we saw the beginning of Joseph's development. It stands to reason that last-borns are typically, as Dr. Kevin Lehman describes in his book, The Birth Order book, manipulative, charming, they blame others. This is in the text, it's not my thoughts necessarily. and are attention seekers. They are tenacious, people persons, natural salespeople, precocious, engaging, as well as affectionate. Perceived qualities of the viceroy of Egypt. You're all thinking, aren't you? Firstborns share some of the qualities and for the most part, the expectations of Joseph's rise to power and success, which might have been established by his birth order or was it God's will. Because of the famine, the brothers, except for Benjamin, are sent by Jacob to Egypt to buy food. The brothers, accused of being spies, deny the charge and insist that they were in Egypt merely to buy food. As a test, Joseph demands that they go home and bring back their brother Benjamin in order to prove their story. After 3 days, Joseph releases 9 of the 10 brothers, holding Shimon hostage until they return with Benjamin. They discuss not returning to Egypt and leaving Shimon behind, but they talked amongst themselves and remembered their lack of compassion for Joseph and realized that this unexpected turn of events is divine retribution. In Genesis 42:21, and they said to one another, "We are wearily guilty concerning our brother. In that we saw distress in his soul, when he besought us and would not hear. Therefore, this distress has come upon us." Upon hearing this, Joseph wept as he saw redemption from their previous misdeeds. Now, let's look at firstborns, or the oldest in the family, and specifically the relationship between Jacob and his sons Reuben, Shimon, and Levi. Remember, birth orders 1, 2, and 3, as well as the relationship between Joseph and his older brothers. Firstborns are often overachievers because they are driven towards success and become guardian and protector of younger children or sisters, or younger brothers or sisters. Firstborns are never satisfied. They think they could do a better job and are always trying harder. They possess leadership abilities where they take charge and know what to do. Firstborns are aggressive, where they command respect and others want to follow their unflinching leadership. They are perfectionists, organized, and logical. Classical rabbinical sources argue that Shimon was fearless, but also particularly envious, and so had many antagonistic and spiteful thoughts towards Joseph, owing Joseph to being Jacob's favorite son. Sources also indicate that Shimon was the one that threw Joseph into the pit and became furious when he found out that Judah had sold Joseph rather than killing him. So, how does Judah fit into the family dynamics? Judah, number 9 of 13, appears to have middle child tendencies. Middle children are loyal, being the most secretive of all birth orders. Shimon was, no doubt, blindsided by Judah's behavior and having a deep need to belong. According to Frank Soloway, author of Born to Rebel, compared to other siblings, middle children are more flexible and favor compromise. When they rebel, they do so largely out of frustration or compassion for others, rather than from hatred or ideological fanaticism. In Genesis 42:28, the brothers refer to divine providence, God's intervention in the world, the workings of a divine justice. It is written that divine providence describes God's intervention in the life of people. Providence is the spiritual law of nature, similar to karma, wherein good is rewarded and evil punished. Joseph insists that the lives of the people are under the control of a caring God. The theme of God's guiding hand underlies this entire story. In 41:16, when he interprets dreams, and in 42:18, when he tests his brothers, ultimately, Joseph is arguing that although you sold me into slavery, from the beginning it was really God who sent me here. Therefore, I conclude, was Joseph's fate God's will or the result of traditional birth order ranking? Only God knows. Shabbat Shalom.